good day, good evening, good whatever time of day it is. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. For your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and whatever it is that we have decided to talk about. And tonight my guests and I have decided to talk about topical issues of what's going on in the world that we think would be worth discussing, and see if we have some different views, since we both tend to be rather progressive. But this is not going to be a kumbaya session, all right? And here's my old friend Dave Westerland, who's been on the show a number of times before. And I get all these requests to have you back on again. And your friend Herschel
Souls.
Herschel Souls. And you've not been on before.
No, I have not.
Have you seen the show before?
I think I did see a show with Joe Walsh.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, how are you feeling right now?
I don't know. I hope I don't catch your cold.
Don't start. We got started yet. He's carrying on.
Just don't breathe it.
Yeah, he's reacting that way because I was complaining that last night I was in the VA emergency room because I had this darn bug, and it turns out it was flu, and they took me through a couple hours of examinations and tests and like that, and says your lungs look fine, but you apparently have a pretty severe case of the flu, so they let me go home and made me drink a lot of liquids and a lot of vodka. No.
But
anyhow, I'm still alive and well.
on with the show.
How are you feeling now?
I'm feeling very good.
You sure?
Oh, yes, so far. Maybe tomorrow I won't be feeling this good.
And how are you feeling right now?
Well, you know, I'm feeling better than I have in the last couple of days. I've had a virus as well. So,
really now?
Yeah.
It's going on big time, huh?
It certainly is, yeah.
Yeah. Well, as you know, the show goes in two major segments. And the first segment is what I call the bio segment, the Who Are You segment, where I ask you about who you are personally, so that the viewers have an idea where you're coming from when you voice an opinion or have an idea, a little bit information about you. So let's start with Dave. See, now I'm aware I'm a little spacey, even now, you know, but that's don't say anything. What's your name, sir?
Dave Westerland.
Dave Westerland. Do you have a
Yes.
middle name?
Richard,
Yeah, Richard. How'd you get a middle name like that?
you'd have to ask my parents. If you pray to God, you might get them. But I doubt it.
Pray to God, what are you asking me that for? And when and where were you born?
Chicago.
Chicago.
I've tried to be I grew up in a very religious family. That's the only type of abuse I've ever gotten from my family was religion.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw through it. I think I always saw through it as a kid.
What
then-
religion was that?
Sort of a Lutheran religion, a mission Lutheran.
Uh-huh. And how long did it take you to decide to not be religious in that sense?
Well, maybe I became an atheist where I was putting my arm around Madeleine Murray O'Hare at the age of 50. I've got a picture at home where I put my arm around her.
Really?
And she signed it, and she said, "What should I sign it?" And I said, "Why don't you say thank you for coming?" And she said, "That's very suggestive."
She did.
But she
She's a
did put that down.
show, Dave. But wonderful, yeah. And anything significant about your cultural?
I like to be an
heritage?
agitator, as you already know.
Oh,
I think this government we have today, whatever we can call it, capitalistic, or we sometimes call it a democracy, but I think we need to agitate it more and get them to be more progressive.
mm-hmm.
There's some very beautiful countries out there today where we used to be number one in everything. We're down number 30, number 40. Education,
Mm-hmm.
we're down about number 30 in the in the first world countries.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe religion.
Okay, let's continue on. Why
Okay.
were you born?
Why was I born?
Yes, stop repeating my questions.
Why was I born?
Oh, dear.
Golly, I don't know. Again, you'd have to go back and check with other people.
Okay. I know.
I repeat your questions because I don't really understand how I can answer them. Excuse me, Don.
That's all right.
Okay.
Yeah. See, I've rehearsed these questions over the years, and I've got answers for myself pretty good.
Oh, okay.
But the idea is to catch you kind of off guard and get your spontaneity out so
Okay.
people can see what you really
So
like.
maybe I was born out of love because my parents got along very well together.
Uh-huh.
Never had any problems until I was about 17 and I got out in the world and saw how cruel the world really was.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a bubble.
Mm. So, how about you said you're an atheist now?
Yeah, oh, you mentioned how long did it take me. It took me maybe 30, 40 years to go completely from an unbeliever to an atheist. And I still believe in the, I see God in the trees, in the mountains, in the fresh air we have sometimes, or in the fluoride-treated water.
Not yet, not yet.
Oh, isn't it treated here yet? Good,
Not yet.
good. I'm glad to hear that.
All right, let's continue on here so we have some room for Herschel's questions. And your formal education, Dave, what was that about?
Oh, I got an engineering degree, but it was in fire protection engineering. So my first job was with an insurance company. And after about 3 years, I had to quit. They were so crooked. It's terrible what some of our industry does. They asked me to take a bribe, a very small bribe, but they asked me to take a bribe on a sprinkler system that a manufacturer had put in to their plant. And I think there were 99 sprinkler heads, and I found 99 problems with the system where it would not work properly.
Mm-hmm. And they let you go.
Well, I sort of quit.
Are you an agitator always looking for trouble?
I try, yeah. Really, I am. I do. I like to look for trouble just so I don't go into jail.
All right.
But then in 1954, when I refused to go to Korea, they gave me a dishonorable discharge and 7 years in prison. Except I did get out in 18 months on good behavior, and a couple people agreed with me. The shrink at Lompoc Federal Prison agreed.
That's in California.
In
Lompoc.
California,
Yeah.
yes.
So you'd done jail time.
It was better than the Army. Jail time was quite nice. I enjoyed it.
So you think you'll ever go back and become embrace a religion, a Christian religion again?
No.
All right.
No, even if I was on my deathbed.
So besides the work you mentioned with the Forestry Service, what kind of work have you done in your working? You don't work now anymore, do you?
No, but I worked on air compressors, traveling throughout the Pacific region, China, Australia, Korea.
Did you like that?
Oh, I enjoyed it very much. The people you meet are so wonderful, especially in China when they found out I was an atheist. Wow, they thought I was going to preach to them or something when I first went over there.
Okay. Do you have a partner, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or a husband, or wife? Or
I'm
something?
looking right now. As you know, I had a wife for a while, but
Yeah.
we split up. But no, I'm looking for a girlfriend.
All right. Yeah. I split up with mine, but I've got one that's ongoing now, and it's working pretty good. We're getting better at it.
You mean Pat?
Pat, my wife, yeah.
Okay, good. I thought maybe you'd split up with her, because that would
Don't ever get me in trouble now.
that would be a big mistake.
She's a lovely lady.
Oh, she is.
She was really taking good care of me last night. Never mind. Back to the VA again. And any children?
Well, I've got either 3 or 4 children. Depends. One I'm not sure of. My first wife was fooling around.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I've got one I raised as a single parent for about 12 years, and we're pretty close.
Okay. How about your political persuasion? Where would you see yourself on the continuum? Left, right, center, over the edge, or what?
Nonconformist.
Nonconformist.
Yes.
Are you a Tea Partier? Or?
No. Oh. Thank you, Don. I appreciate that. No, I voted for Jill Stein. Met her at the corner there where we have those anti-war demonstrations every Friday evening.
Here in Portland, Oregon?
Here in Portland, yes.
Yeah.
And she certainly had her head screwed on correctly.
Uh-huh.
I mean, maybe I would have voted for Obama, but he was just the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, there's some people who believe that.
Yes.
We'll get more into that later on as we get into the second half of the show. Do you have any memberships in political, social, or civic organizations that are worth mentioning?
Off and on, I'm in the NAACP, the ACLU, American Atheists, Freedom from Religion Foundation, and what's that group in Portland here, the Humanists? That's really
Humanists of Greater Portland?
yeah, which really has become a secular Jewish organization.
Are you anti-Semitic?
I'm pro-truth. People ask me that on the corner if I'm anti-Semitic
I
because
know.
of my sign. But I get about 20% of the Jewish people coming up and telling me my sign is right on.
Yeah.
The Jewish people are very good in this country. They're not sheep. That's one thing I must say about them. This country is full of too many sheep.
What's your sign say that provokes that kind of a response?
I was going to bring it in, but Herschel asked me not to.
Thank you very much.
It's a big blue star. It says on the top, today they control the U.S. Congress, which I'm talking about Israel. And then on the bottom it says, tomorrow the world. Sort of like that propaganda we got about what Germany had. Today we control Germany, tomorrow the world.
Uh-huh.
Supposedly Adolf said that. But and then I have Israel on both sides. But
I think it's a little bit.
it's strong. It's very strong, yes.
The
Yes, I
idea that
agree.
a small country like Israel would control U.S. is a bit of more than I can handle. But I do think that Israel over there is kind of a floating aircraft carrier for the U.S., or not a floating aircraft carrier, but a potential place or base for the U.S., so they support Israel, regardless of the atrocities that Israel commits to the Palestinians.
Oh,
So-
right. I am anti-Zionist.
That's the correct word, yes.
I
Yeah.
think that's probably correct. It seems to me Zionism is a big problem. I'm not, there's people that they say they're Zionists, but if you understand what Zionism entails, I mean, it just entails stealing from the Palestinians, jailing Palestinians without without charges, assassination, torture.
All right, let
It's
me
all
ask one
involved.
more question, and then we'll talk to you about who you are personally.
All right.
And then we'll go into the second half of this.
Well, let me just continue with what he was saying. Then we have these strong Christian Zionists in the United States, like Jerry Falwell, who comes out publicly and says, Israel can do no wrong. We must follow them. And that's what most of our senators do, too.
Uh-huh.
We must follow Israel. If they bomb Tehran, they're doing the right thing, because then they're bringing on this Armageddon. Am I pronouncing that right?
Armageddon, I think.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're jumping ahead of me there. Name me somebody from the past or alive today, some one or two people who you look up to or admire, some names from history or some person that you really admire.
Well, I had the opportunity in Longview, Washington, to shake the hand of Ralph Nader, and I told him at the time I thought he was the greatest man of the 20th century. Maybe Maybe it's changed a little. Maybe it's Jimmy Carter. But I do not want to mention the third man that I consider might be the greatest man of the 20th century, even though he was on Time magazine, and they said his picture was on the front page of Time magazine as the Man of the Year in 1937. So if you go back to your 1937 Time magazines, you notice Adolf's picture on the front page.
You are so weird. let's go with Herschel. Okay.
Yeah,
Herschel.
you better.
Yeah. I better get away from you for a few minutes. And Herschel Sales. What kind of a name is that?
Herschel is just, my mother wanted to be original, so she picked something that there are not too many of them, and picked Herschel. Her sister named Celeste, so she tried to be original.
Yeah.
Sounds German, but I just trying to be original.
Okay. If I would ask your best friend, who is Herschel? What would your best friend say? Herschel is what?
Oh, good question. I guess I'm a person that kind of
In the first person.
agitates against inequities, trying to work for a more just form of government society.
So this is what your friend would say about you?
Yeah.
He'd say that Herschel tries to work for...
He's a regular demonstrator every Friday for the last 10 years down at the Portland Peaceful Response Corner.
How did you get to be like that?
Huh?
How did you get to be like that? Like you are?
Like I am?
Demonstrating and agitating.
Good question, because it wasn't really, I just kind of went through high school and kind of thought that all these major decisions were made by voting and discussion by legislators and senators and representatives. And I just discovered that really wasn't the way at all. I just kind of somehow evolved into a demonstrator. It had to be people on the street that were going to make changes. I did, at one time, way back in the 70s, I sponsored an initiative petition all by myself, although it takes a lot of help to get this thing done. But it was what I thought was an outrageous governor's pension, and I sponsored a repeal of this outrageous pension, and it passed in every county in the state of Oregon there. So
You are an activist kind of a person. I'm just curious about what it was like for you as a child to have this kind of mindset.
It was not part of my family upbringing to be that kind of an activist. I'm not sure what happened. Could have been. I'm not sure. I just somehow expected things to be so much different than they were in real life. I remember I was in the Navy, and we were approaching Guantanamo for some kind of training, and you hear these stories about how the Navy does things like they build schools. Well, here was a ship loaded with people. I'm sure they were trying to flee Haiti, and it was without power. So what did our ship do? Well, the least amount possible. They sent over some water, they sent over some food, and then they kind of wished them good luck. I mean, what do people do out in the middle of the Caribbean if they don't have power? I mean, it seemed like the thing maybe to do would have hauled this thing into Guantanamo, but in the military, the military is very hierarchical, and everybody is just trying to please their boss, not raise any waves. So one of the disappointments I had in military experience.
And when and where were you born?
Born in Portland.
Native.
Portland, Oregon.
Yeah. And how long ago was that?
41. So
31. And anything significant about your religious preference? Do you have a religious preference, or?
I think I pretty much agree with Dave here. I went to the VA too one time and they wanted to asked my religious preference. And I said, I'm an atheist. And they said, well, no preference. I tried to tell them, no, it's atheist. It wasn't one of the boxes, so they checked no preference. I mean, atheist was not acceptable.
Yeah. So, and your formal education.
I went to Oregon State University.
Uh-huh.
I was in a class. I graduated in 1958, and in that time, Sputnik kind of was launched the year before in '57. It was this hue and cry for scientists and engineers. So
Yes,
I
yes.
did take a year of engineering. I eventually graduated in science and physics from Oregon State University.
Uh-huh. And how long ago did you stop working?
In 2006, I was kind of let go. I was working for the chainsaw company here in Portland that manufactured chainsaws for cutting concrete.
Mm.
So I helped make the bars, and it's a technique of it's a chainsaw, but it's got just a little lump of diamond-filled metal
Yeah.
that kind of chips away at the concrete. So
Yeah. Did you enjoy that work?
I enjoyed some of the machine work. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Do you have a partner, a wife,
No, I don't.
boyfriend?
No, sorry, I don't.
No? Okay. And your political persuasion, are you farther left than Dave is, or is that possible?
It's well, it turns out we have a lot in common. I'm not sure, but I did. We've both been to Cuba. I went to Cuba in
Me
in
too.
70 did
Last
you?
year. Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. When I went to Cuba, I had no idea there was a restriction. I just thought, it was Carter kind of opened the gate, and so we went to Cuba just to kind of check it out, and I realized that the door had been closed, and it was when Reagan came back in office, he closed the gate again. Just
Mm-hmm.
get to go to Cuba.
Yeah, you're going to go back?
I'm not sure I would go back. I mean, it was an interesting place. I mean, it's one of the things you notice in Cuba when you realize how commercial things are here, because you don't drive by all these signs about buy a tire, buy insurance, buy whatever. It's just none of the advertising stuff. A few political billboards, but that's about it.
Yeah, we have some stories about Cuba which we may get into later on, but I don't want to take up any of our time from that standpoint. Any persons from the past or alive today that you admired or look up to? Any names come to mind?
Lately, except for a couple of families, I've been a big Kucinich fan. He seems to say all the right things.
Yay!
Yeah. And as far as in the Senate, Aberesk was a senator. Gosh, I think it was. Can't remember. Midwestern senator. He was supporting of the Palestinians against this Jewish genocide over there by Israel. I say Jewish, Israeli genocide. I want to make that clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I admire him. Elizabeth Holtzman was kind of a really neat woman for the. I remember the Watergate hearings, and she's just kind of a super person.
Yeah.
Attorney General.
So you guys met on the corner of Pioneer Courthouse Square. Is that how you met?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Now you ask about people I admire. I mean, I want to one-up Dave. I've had a beer with Ralph Nader.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Man, I hate both of you.
Well, I went on a nation cruise, and he was on the nation cruise, and Greg Kafori went along, and I was up there having a drink anyway, and Greg says, "Hey, you want to have a beer with Ralph Nader? Come on over." And he's just such a personable guy. I mean, he doesn't take any kind of an arrogant attitude. I wanted him to explain, how it was that. Because his explanation for the 2000 election was that he actually helped Al Gore by bringing out voters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was accused of throwing the election to George Bush.
Yes.
He said, no. He said he had statistics that said just quite the opposite. But a really genial guy. Just fun to have a beer with him.
And Greg Kafori has been on the show in the past too. He's a nice guy too.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Control Room, Ellery, how about we take a little break and come back and talk about other stuff? You ready for that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're back. Thanks for staying tuned. And for your viewers who missed the opening of the show, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is we have decided to talk about. And tonight my guests, Dave Westerlin and Herschel Sales, will be getting into the meat of the show. I got a bit of a cheat sheet here that we decided to prop a discussion. And as I was reading off the things we could talk about, someone suggested America's wars would be a good topic. Huh? I had the presidential inauguration speech, racism, drones, Syria, Iran, Israel, Palestine, AFRICOM, Australia and America, American Empire. Where shall we start?
We're all against war, I believe. Herschel and I are out there every Friday protesting against it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we should talk about how to agitate our government to get out of the war. I'm quite discouraged with the group that meets out there because there aren't enough people. There should be thousands of people from Portland protesting the war.
Which war?
Yeah, which war? Exactly. All the wars we're in. We're in many, many wars. Afghanistan, Iraq, and now we want to go into Iran, and we're in Somalia. Herschel, help?
Yemen.
Yeah.
Mali?
Yeah,
Mali.
Yeah. It is a little distressing to hear this talk about war. I mean, they can. Is it Mali? They're dropping bombs or something like that, and I mean it almost sounds like it's a football game, but it's really not a football game. There are people out there losing limbs, losing hearing. I mean, just being decapitated. I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And I think we should almost.
And these are innocent people, innocent
A lot of
children,
innocent, yeah.
innocent women. It would be okay if it was just the soldiers, the U.S. soldiers and the Afghan or Al Qaeda, whoever it is. But there's more innocent people being killed than there are soldiers.
Hasn't there always been wars since humans have been on the planet?
I think when we had the Cold War from 1946 to 1951, we really weren't at war anywhere then. I mean, I can only remember myself as a child growing up. But we had this Cold War with Russia, which seemed to keep us out of a war. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should have a Cold War all the time if nobody gets hurt.
What about the war on terror?
The war in
The war on terror.
that's like the war on marijuana. They're trying to scare us.
Mm-hmm.
That's we get into the airport. We have people checking us, looking at us in the nude because they have these sophisticated instruments, and it doesn't help.
Gore Vidal mentioned this war on terror is like a war on a tactic. He says it's like it's a war on dandruff. He said, come on, it's just, you can't, it's kind of an excuse to just kind of have a continuous war here. There's nothing to, you can't win. There's no end to it. So
What's the reason for it?
well, it makes money for some people.
It makes
Military-industrial
money.
complex makes a lot of money, and if you take a look at our budget, where 60% of our budget goes to the military, they look like they're in control. And in the George Bush, where he bought the, just decided to borrow the money to go to war, why the bankers, they're more than happy, Federal Reserve more than happy to loan the money, because that just means all this interest on the loan money just keeps rolling in.
So the bankers are controlling the war
Because
because they're giving the money to the military and industrial complex.
That's right.
So we should go after the bankers. I don't know how many people in the United States understand, but our Federal Reserve has nothing to do with the U.S. government. These are private bankers with their private money.
It's been around for a while, huh?
I don't know.
1913, the Federal Reserve.
Uh-huh. So what would you replace it with?
Other countries have replaced it. We discussed Iceland the other day on the telephone. Do you remember?
Yes, I remember.
I don't know what they've done. I wish I could get more information on that. And also, against your will, I'm going to bring up in 1933, Germany nationalized their banks. We need to nationalize our banks, put the government in control of the banks. It seems to work out. It seems to have worked out in Iceland, too. I don't know how
there
many-
was a front page article in the Oregonian on January 8th about the government minting a platinum coin and depositing it in the Federal Reserve. Okay, it was a front page article,
Yes.
and it was kind of looked upon as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
But Ellen Brown, in her book The Web of Debt, kind of suggested that this would be a way to do it. We really don't need to borrow money from the Federal Reserve because they don't have any money to loan. I mean, the money comes out of an empty hat. All we do is the government promises to pay the Federal Reserve interest on this fictitious money which they create. So we can just eliminate the Federal Reserve, and the government could print money. And when you print money, you have to kind of buy products or use the money for infrastructure projects. I mean, you just don't print money, but and it's all, the creation of this money should be controlled by Congress. That's fine, but we don't need the Federal Reserve. I mean, a war is just a promise to pay them interest forevermore. Terrible.
So I notice you've got a book there called Web of Debt
Yes.
by E.H. Brown. How far into that are you?
I've read the book. I read it again. You know, we all had this experience after the crash in 2000, was it 2008? 7 and 8, yeah. 8. I mean, we had this horrible crash. The bankers had to get bailed out, and it turns out their reason they got bailed out is they made some bad debts. And after they got bailed out, they gave themselves million-dollar bonuses. And clearly, the bankers are not on our side. I mean, their interest is making money. They're not interested in providing homes. In this one page here, at the bankers in the 30s, the bankers felt threatened because they were talking about changing the monetary system, and they talked about, you know, it'd be better if people were homeless. If people were homeless, then they'll follow the leaders. I mean, the capitalists really wanted to protect their very privileged position in this society. So,
So would you recommend somebody else to read that book, Web of Deceit?
If you want to understand banking,
Will you hold it up?
sure.
So that the camera can focus on it and see.
The Web of Debt there by Ellen Brown. She maintains that here you go by Ellen Brown. She maintains that this economy would be able to eliminate the income tax. I think it might be going too far, but eliminate the income tax if they just eliminate the Federal Reserve and the interest we pay on the federal debt. It's the interest that's really crippling us.
So it sounds like capitalism, as practiced by the U.S., isn't working very well for ordinary citizens.
That is true. The gap is getting wider between the rich and the poor. Homelessness is on the rise, and we're in a crisis situation right now because I'm not sure we can really economically expand. Global warming is upon us. We have to kind of reduce the burning of fossil fuels. So I think this requirement that you have to keep expanding it so much a year is going to have to be revisited.
So is there class warfare in America today?
Yes, there is. As Buffett says, there's class warfare, and his class is winning. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, the gap between the rich and the poor is expanding. There are fewer jobs, fewer middle-class jobs.
What do we need to do as the ordinary citizens to do something about this widening gap between the rich and the poor?
Well, that's a good question, and I certainly don't have the answer for all this. We need a new kind of a monetary system, but I think kind of in this book here, at least you understand the banking system and how they are so one-sided, so antagonistic toward working class people. I mean, they want to keep people poor and keep them uninformed.
Why is that?
If you might have rising expectations. I mean, if you see people living very, very well, you would say, well, why are those people living so well, and the rest of us living so miserably there? Mm-hmm. I just saw the movie Les Miserables, and one of the things in the movie Les Miserables, they did portray the poor people, the peasants, as living very, very poorly.
Mm-hmm. It's worth seeing.
I think it's worth seeing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about the use of drones all around the world?
Oh.
You think that's okay?
No, I don't think it's okay. You know, I read Glenn Greenwald. I go to Common Dreams. I read Glenn Greenwald.
Another hero of mine.
Is he's just a neat guy?
Yeah.
Totally neat. And he in his column he mentioned Max Blumenthal. Martin Luther King had an "I Have a Dream" speech in 1963, and Max Blumenthal thought that maybe Obama's inauguration speech would be "I have a drone" speech.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's just. I don't see how you can justify it. No, it goes against our Constitution. When we had the Constitution and they had the Bill of Rights, and you had to have a trial, no loss of property without due process of
Habeas
law.
corpus and
Habeas corpus. Everything. It goes against everything. I mean, innocent until proven guilty. No, it's all out the window.
And the propaganda ministry in our country is so powerful. Obama's inauguration speech sounded so promising and so full of hope and ideas, but the things he didn't say, a few things he didn't even mention, were more important than the good things, the feel-good things that he said. As you were saying earlier, not once did he mention drones and the the expansion of the use of drones all over the world is just really scary. And someone is suggesting that it is a sign that the American empire is about to fold and collapse. Do you think the American empire is going to keep on the way it's going now, or is something going to happen?
Well, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but this drone warfare, it's obvious that the U.S. would not tolerate Cuba being able to send drones over here and assassinate people that they felt were a threat. It's just it terrorizes people. It's a big piece of hypocrisy for the U.S. to say that they are out there trying to promote democracy when they do things like this here. They're building a base. The U.S. is building a military base off of South Korea.
Africa?
Huh?
The one off of South Korea.
Zhejiang, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And the people have already had a vote. They decided they didn't want the base. But the U.S., this country that supposedly is trying to spread democracy, says, we don't care. We're going ahead with it. I mean, it's obvious we are not spreading democracy. We are spreading U.S. domination. Yeah.
So where's the next big area of conflict? Is it the Middle East, or is it Africa, or is it in the China Pacific area?
Or maybe all of them at one time. Why not?
That's the plan, I think. The war on terror.
Sure.
If you have enough drones, you can fly all over the world.
Yes.
Right.
I'm
And
sure
no
we can
boots
put
on
a
the ground.
nuclear bomb on one of those drones and bomb anybody we want to.
You think it's going to come to that?
It may.
Oh boy.
I hope not. I think, well, not with this president anyway. I mean, he has been trying. Didn't he try and make that part of his record that he wanted to kind of reduce the number of nuclear weapons? I mean, reduce is not good enough for me. I want to eliminate nuclear weapons.
Mhm.
But
I believe they have nuclear bombs today that don't really give out any radiation like the bombs that were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima in 1945, where they can just drop a bomb and it'll destroy things, but it won't send out a
Radiation.
nuclear
somehow it's
waste.
a neutron bomb, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
They've come a long way in 70 years how to kill people.
So what is Obama going to do in his next 4 years? Is it going to be anything that's going to benefit the ordinary citizenry?
I don't have a crystal ball here, I'm sorry. I hope he changes his mind on, he seems to be following right in Bush's footsteps, which is bad. We need somebody in there to turn us around, and Obama just doesn't seem to be the man to do it.
He doesn't seem to want to stand up to power at all. He always wants to negotiate, and you can't really negotiate with someone who really wants your demise or wants your servitude. It's kind of like slaves trying to negotiate, their freedom with the slave owner. They don't want to negotiate that.
It
kind of a
hasn't
thing.
been too many years that we had slavery in this country, and Barack Obama is black, and that hatred still runs deep in a lot of Americans. Yeah.
I think you're right about that. It's unfortunate. I wish we could get beyond racism, but
Okay, you ready for APAC?
sure.
I've been saving that.
Have you?
Let's talk about APAC.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't bring my big sign in, but yes, AIPAC is perhaps what I feel is our greatest problem in the Middle East. They control our U.S. Congress.
What does APAC mean?
I'm not sure about the last three words exactly because I've heard a couple different terms, but it stands for the American Israeli Political Action Committee.
Yeah.
which controls, they spend a lot of money paying off our Congress people, both the senators and the House of Representatives. There's very few people in the Congress that will stand up against AIPAC. And I think I could count them on my two hands. And I don't know of any of them right now that are standing up.
Why is that?
Mostly money. A lot has to do with Israel being there, where they are. I think we would have been better off after World War II to let the Jews that wanted to immigrate to either go to a place like Nevada. We should have given them part of the United States, since we do accept the Israeli people so well here. Now, there's a big difference, and we have to be very careful about talking about the Jewish people or the Zionists. And I make that error many times myself. But I do appreciate the Jewish people in this country. They are not sheep. They stand up for what they think is correct. Too many of them stand up for Israel, though, which I feel is not correct.
No, I did see in Harper's Magazine here the odds of an Israeli believing that Israel has an apartheid, or is pushing an apartheid kind of government on the Palestinians, and they said it was 1 in 2 believe that Israel is indeed imposing this apartheid life on the Palestinians. So even Israelis realize that this is really kind of a very brutal kind of thing. Chuck Hagel, was being criticized by AIPAC, and his comment was, I'm an American, I'm a U.S. senator, I'm not an Israeli senator.
Mm-hmm.
And AIPAC got upset about that. I mean, they just you can't be even-handed. I think Kucinich said something like we should be even-handed with the Palestinians and the Israelis, and AIPAC is just kind of, they don't want any kind of even-handedness. They want everybody lockstep support Israel. Somehow they want to have Israel has the right to steal, to murder, to pillage, imprison, torture, without question.
And I wonder why it is Israel, present-day Israel, has the power that it does. And I think you said something earlier to the effect that present-day Israel is like an aircraft carrier or a forward base for U.S. hegemony in the Middle East.
Right.
Some of these people, the Zionists, are just so rabid and right-wing. And I have to add, as I'm saying that, we have Noam Chomsky and Howard Zinn and a whole bunch of other people who are Jewish, who feel the way that we do. So I calibrate myself to see if I'm being anti-Semitic when I talk about what Netanyahu and those people who are leading Israel today. This is going to really blow your mind. Someone suggested that at the end of World War II, the countries that had treated the Jews so badly during World War II should have been required to take the Jews back into those countries and have those governments in those countries behave toward them in a caring sort of a way. So rather than take the land from the Middle East that they occupy now and say, there's the Balfour Declaration, we will establish this state of Israel. It's utterly outrageous. And the brown people in that part of the world had nothing to say about it.
Right. It was the Palestinians had nothing to do with the bad treatment of the Jewish people. I mean, I think they were mistreated. I mean, barbarically mistreated during the Second World War. But the Palestinians had nothing to do with it. But they are paying the price now, as if someone has to pay a price for this mistreatment. But it was one of the founders, whose name escapes me right now, but they were talking about their attitude about saving people. You know, the U.S. refused to take Jewish people who were kind of trying to escape
Yes.
The Holocaust, trying to find a place to go, and the U.S. refused them entry in the United States.
Yeah, that ship was wandering from port to port.
Right, and but one of the leaders there said if we could have, you know, saved 100 children, you know, by sending them to the U.S. or saved 10 children by bringing them to Israel, he said we would choose to save 10 to bring them to Israel. I mean, they wanted to have this state of Israel, even if they had to throw some people under the bus. That was all right.
Yeah, I wonder what will be happening in the Middle East even 10 years from now, not even 20 years from now. How long can this go on this way? And
But excuse me,
Sure.
I want to get back to your thing on they're like an aircraft carrier, they're Israel. But I don't think they are. We have Saudi Arabia, where we have a lot of bases in Saudi Arabia. And I believe it was Eisenhower who signed a treaty with Saudi Arabia to protect their monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need Israel. I think it's I can. A man was running for president of the United States back in 1964 by the name of Goldwater, and he was anti-Israel, but he was Jewish,
Yeah.
and he said we don't need those people on the East Coast to tell us what to do. I don't know if you remember the advertisements then, but they showed Goldwater cutting off the East Coast of the United States. But there was a man that was honest, and he lost the election because he was honest.
Did you vote for him?
Yes.
You are so weird.
The only time I believe I voted Republican.
Yeah.
You know, he was thinking about dropping nuclear weapons though on Vietnam.
Oh,
at the
yes.
time, and that's a little spooky.
Well, his comment was very simple about the war. He said either get in or get out.
Well, I mean, is there a reason to get in? I mean,
He also said get out because we were in it then.
But sometimes those kinds of questions ignore a more important question. Like it shouldn't even be considered whether you get in or out. It's not our responsibility. It's not our human responsibility to decide whether or not to kill other human beings or other countries.
Well, look what happened to that other man running for president, McGovern. He was all for getting out,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe he won the votes for the Democratic nomination, but did not get the nomination the year he ran for president.
Mm-hmm.
It's our system. Our system is broken in this country.
I heard a comment about the system being broken, and they said the system is not broken; it's fixed.
Ah.
That's good. Very good.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we're running short of time. So how about you have some closing thoughts or comments for the viewers about what we talked about this evening, or anything else that comes to mind right now?
Well, I'd like to show a picture I have here,
Uh-huh.
which I think is very true about the American people. That doesn't show up. How can I keep it out of the light?
Because
Could be a reflective
listen
surface.
to me. We don't have to be just sheep.
Yes. We all have to be like that one man standing
The
up.
far side, Gary Larson. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Very good.
All right, close. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what's wrong with the people in this country. They're sheep. There aren't enough of us. I don't feel we are sheep at all.
Mm-mm.
We get up and say what we feel, even if it's going to mean jail time. for
How
us.
about a constitutional amendment that says corporations are not persons? How's that for a starter?
Yes, I know.
It's a good beginning. They are not people. I mean, I have faith in the American people. I mean, I don't think they're anything strange. We have newspapers, the media is consolidated. So we don't get a lot of information. They leave out a lot of information. That's one of the points. I'm been going up there 10 years now with Dave here demonstrating, and my friend says, we criticize the media, criticize some decisions by our congressman. He says, well, we try and every week we come up here and we let a little bit of air out of the tire. Sooner or later, they're going to have to change the tire.
All right. We're going to have to start winding down now because time is running out. And keep your pens and pencils handy because we want to jot down something that we will show you in the closing credits. Again, thanks for you guys for coming on. Enjoyed visiting with you.
It was a pleasure, Don.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invitation.
A few public service announcements. And there's the broadcast schedule to watch the shows in Washington County. And to watch my shows on the web, go to www.donbaham.com and click on favorite links. There's over a couple hundred shows there. And the American Civil Liberties Union, without the ACLU, our civil liberties would be further down the tubes than they are.
Yes.
Go to that website and join the ACLU. And to get my shows broadcast regularly by your local public access station, go to www.pegmedia.org and they can do that for you. And to learn how to end corporate personhood, we've got to end corporate personhood.
Definitely.
Go to www.pegmedia.org to learn how to end corporate personhood. And thanks for watching this episode of Conversation with Dr. Don. And now my favorite part for the day is KFC. Not Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable. Be kind, be friendly, and be charitable to you too. And you, and you, and you, and you, Dave. Thanks again for watching. Good night.